Hi everybody. So we're going to talk about economics of streamlining manufacturing processes. So let's think about it from this perspective. So there is a very, very well-known company, and we're going to talk about new technologies and how that's impacted the way things are done, new methodologies of thinking, but in a very, very short, easy analogy. So Tesla, they are in the cusp of redeveloping, and not necessarily redeveloping, they already developed it, but they're improving and adjusting their manufacturing process to produce a whole generation of batteries that are more efficient overall. So let's talk about what they call the 4680 battery cell. It is a lot larger, and the reason why it can be larger is because Tesla realized that friction was getting in the way of making the size of a single battery larger, so they fixed the problem. Bottom line is, welcome to the advent of something so simple called the tabless battery electrode, or whatever they want to call it. So that's a good side. The benefit of Tesla is that it's not that they developed it. They developed it, that's the good side of it. But what is the unique side is trying to develop a manufacturing process that can streamline it, and overall, because of that, decrease the overall cost of manufacturing and improve the overall cost per cell. So if you think about it, the 4680 cell compared to their, 2170, I think it is, which is a much smaller battery. It's like literally the size of 5-6 batteries in one battery package that has less friction overall, less heat production overall. And the biggest thing is, that's the key thing, the biggest thing is it decreases overall heat loss. So you have a more efficient cell because you have less heat loss. Now, they have been working on it for about 2 years now to develop a manufacturing process that is going to make the production capacities greater than 90% on their battery line, so that you have less waste overall. Another company, I think it's either Panasonic or LG or something like that, they're also developing and producing 4680 cells as well too. And they're doing it technically at the same overall cost of their previous battery lines. Will they in the long run be able to decrease the overall per cell cost? Yes. Comparatively to where Tesla will start whenever they initiate their first line, their actual true manufacturing lines, will they be even comparative to what Tesla is able to do? Actually, they won't be able to. So this is how you have to look at it. Yes, the ones from the other companies, they will be more expensive. The reason why Tesla is able to do it at such a cheaper cost is because their overall resource utilization is so much lower. Everything requires water. And that's the key thing is, imagine this. So a cell phone requires about 3,000 liters of water just to make one cell phone. Well, battery-wise, for some of the vapor processes, some of the cleaning processes, or whatever it is very water intensive. Tesla developed a dry electrode system or so, and they, not that they developed it, but they bought out Maxwell, who developed the technology or the processes to make a dry electrode in a sense. And because of that, they're able to decrease their overall utilization of all these excessive resources. So what would take up all these extra steps, they don't have to worry about anymore. And if you could decrease steps, you decrease cost overall. Has these other companies been able to do it? No, they've been able to make it more efficient. They haven't been able to get rid of all those steps. So those costs are so much more overall compared to it. Tesla, they've done a very, very smart thing when it comes to manufacturing, which is make things more efficient, make things more complicated. So that's the benefit of improving overall resource management, resource allocation, and improving manufacturing efficiency, is to get rid of steps, develop technologies that gets rid of steps overall, and you still have overall the same product. If you can decrease 30% of the steps, that means 30% of that cost of those steps go away. The manufacturing, the machinery, the space, it all goes away. So you have more room, and more room means you have more stuff in those newer processes to create more batteries. So the same volume of space, and this is something that Elon Musk mentioned, is that you have all this extra space, and you can use that for more manufacturing of the same product. So overall, that's what he looks at. So let's take a step at looking at the economics of an electric car that is going to cost, let's just say, roughly about $25,000, which is the next iteration, the next steps that these battery manufacturing companies want to produce, is a very, very inexpensive car. Well, how is that possible? It actually is extremely possible when you think about it. And there are certain things that you have to look at compared to the current $40,000 cars now. How do you decrease it down to $15,000? First off, one key thing is to decrease the range of these cars. And does that make sense? Absolutely. A cheaper a car is, the range of it is a whole lot, or not a whole lot, but a lot less. Let's just say a Honda Civic versus a Honda Accord. Honda Civic, yeah, it might be extremely efficient, but to make it efficient, it only gets about 260, 270 miles worth of range overall. It's not that their engines are less efficient. It's just because they use a 10-gallon tank or 11-gallon tank, and in a Honda Accord you'll use a 15 to 16-gallon tank. Actually, yeah, the Honda Civic is much more efficient, but it also has less power, less torque, and so forth as well too. So the engines and so forth are a lot weaker, and in the long run, because of that, it's cheaper to manufacture. So the price of the car decreases. So Honda Accord versus a Honda Civic, yes, Honda Civic's much more efficient. But once again, why is the Honda Civic cheaper? Because they give up all these extra benefits of having a Honda Accord to produce the Honda Civic. So let's look at the electric vehicles nowadays versus, let's just say, a $25,000 electric vehicle. So you decrease the range from, roughly the average is about 300 miles for the typical electric vehicle right now, and you decrease it down to about 240, 250 miles per charge, which means the amount of batteries, the amount of lithium, blah, 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 you need overall, the percentage decreases quite a bit. We know that roughly 25%, 30% of a car's cost is the battery itself. So if you could decrease the total batteries down by 20, 25%, of that humongous amount of cost from the battery itself decreases, so the price goes down there. Literally save $5,000 easily there. So there's $35,000. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. Is a smaller car is technically what you get, a Honda Civic versus a Honda Accord. Honda Civic is a lot smaller overall. So let's look at a smaller car. A smaller car means what? Less weight. It's more compact, less weight, less wind resistance, less rolling resistance as well too. And because of it weighing even 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds less, what does that mean? You actually need less battery to be able to drive the same distance. So now this battery pack, which just because you're decreasing the range to 250 miles versus 300 miles, like I said, you take 10, 15% away from the weight of the extra batteries. Now you can take a little bit more off of it. So what would be extra battery itself, extra cost in materials itself, you decrease that because the weight decreases, which also means you need less batteries, which means on top of that you use less batteries overall because the weight of the battery itself. So from that alone, now you can take literally 25-30% of the battery pack to produce the same amount of distance. So you can have such a smaller battery pack in a lighter weight car, a smaller car, to produce the same 250 miles versus having a bigger car like a Honda Accord. You put a battery pack in a Honda Accord to get 300 miles, and you just take it and you decrease just the amount of batteries to get it to 250 miles. Yeah, it's just the batteries itself and decrease weight, so forth. Well, now you're decreasing the weight so significantly that it creates all these extra methods, efficiencies, so the battery pack actually decreases in weight quite a bit because you don't need as much battery. So now you drop the weight of the battery and you use less battery overall to produce the same 250 miles. So the cost of the car can literally, from that alone, go down $7,000-$8,000. So that's a $13,000 improvement. So where are you at right now? At $27,000. Okay, just the materials cost alone, the quality cost alone. So you're down to $27,000. And then it's like, so you said 25. What are the other $2,000 that come in the cost? Well, let's look at the overall picture. The requirements of overall extra manufacturing processes. To produce a smaller car, let's just think about this alone. Structurally, a smaller car requires the structure of it to be less dynamic overall. So let's just say a 4-door sedan versus a 2-door coupe. You don't have to produce 4 doors. You produce 2 doors instead. The car is smaller. You produce 2 doors. The size of the car is so much smaller, so the structure of the car doesn't have to support so much excessive weight compared to a larger car. So the manufacturing process is right there because you have less steps overall, and technically that's going to improve the cost much more than $2,000. And even with all that manufacturing and the decrease in manufacturing steps, needs, the overall, the distance between electrical lines going, an extra 2-3 feet. Now you need 2 or 3 feet less worth of electricity, copper wiring, all this other materials, paint, just all these things that make the cost of a bigger car higher. You decrease in general. So the manufacturing not only will be faster, but less expensive because the highest cost utilizations are going down quite a bit. So those are the benefits of improving manufacturing. And how do you produce something that is for the typical consumer to afford? Right there. That happens because you get rid of all those extra manufacturing steps. So that is the benefit of changing because of new technologies. Do we need as many people? No, we need more people in quality control because there's a lot of steps that are very, very repetitive. If you have an entire system, the gigapress as they call it, to press an entire part that used to have 80 parts to it, well, you don't need 80 different bolts or nuts and all these things to put these parts together. It's already done in one. Decreased in time, so you can improve or you can produce these cars so much faster. Those are the benefits of improving technologies and manufacturing efficiencies. And because of that, that decreases the price quite a bit. At $25,000, and let's just talk about the US alone, they are trying to increase the utilization of renewable resources right now. So there is a humongous tax credit that occurs. Well, if at $25,000 and you get a $10,000 tax credit, so you just paid $15,000 for an electric car that goes 250 miles. If I'm assuming that these cars are going to be made on the cheap side, LFP, lithium iron phosphate batteries, which for the stupid person is a really, really good thing. Because stupid people who cannot afford the higher, better technologies, lithium iron batteries, they have a less chance of exploding because you have to overheat them quite a bit. Everybody knows a $25,000 car is not going to be the fastest. Its 0 to 60 is never going to be like 3.5 seconds or 3 seconds. Will people be stupid enough to do it? Absolutely. That's what you expect in people who are going to buy this car. You got to make them somewhat error-proof for idiots. So lithium iron batteries, it has to be like literally about 200 degrees Celsius before they have a significant thermal runaway. Well, if you have the new technologies that come with a tabless battery, which decreases friction in the battery, that actually decreases the chance of a thermal runaway because there's less friction from the batteries itself as it's discharging and recharging. So those benefits in the long run will make electric cars so much more safer. People don't realize that because, once again, you got to dumb it down for everybody and look at, hey, who's so dumb that they're going to try to cause a thermal runaway? I don't know, but it wouldn't be me because I understand the technologies well enough to know that, hey, if I were sitting in a $150,000 car, would I prefer a lithium iron phosphate battery? Yeah, actually I would. Even though it's heavier, but at $150,000, I'm not really caring about the range of a car, okay? I will charge it wherever it is I feel like it. I'm not going to be financially constrained if I buy a $150,000 car. So why would I be concerned about, hey, what range it gets or whatever it is? I have a $150,000 car because I can enjoy my life a little bit more. The lithium iron phosphate batteries, why would I like it? Well, because I'm an environmentalist. You buy these cars because you're trying to help the environment right now. Not because, hey, I'm a FOMO person or a YOLO person, whatever it is. I'm not missing out on anything. Lithium iron batteries right now, they have the highest durability. They have the best overall recharge, safety overall. They last longer than all the other chemistries right now just because they have better thermal properties and they don't produce as much heat. So heat degradation doesn't happen as readily as in other types of battery chemistries. So that's the benefit of it. So would I be okay with a $150,000 car that uses lithium iron batteries and I only get 400 miles of range? Yeah, I would be, because most places I go in a car is not going to be more than 200-300 miles at maximum. And then if I do go more than 300 miles, I will probably be stopping somewhere for a 10-minute break, which, if the battery charging infrastructure is the way it needs to be, that break or so will give me an extra 150-200 miles in 10-15 minutes, and I'm good to go. We don't have to slow down charging with a lithium iron battery as it gets closer to 80 or after 50-60%, because we don't have to deal with as much thermal safety issues as you would with any other chemistry. There you go. Those are things to think about because most people don't ever place those things into consideration. Well, that's the benefit of having lithium iron. They are producing new chemistries. The 4680 cells, they are not lithium iron batteries, but once again, they don't have to deal with as much thermal deconditioning because why? They have solved that problem by decreasing overall resistance. Well, you decrease resistance, you decrease friction. That's just all it is. You decrease friction, less loss from heat. Batteries are more efficient. Would I be okay with a $150,000 car that uses tabless batteries? A lot more than lithium iron batteries because, once again, heat degradation won't occur as much in these newer battery technologies than they do right now. Let's say you're an environmentalist. It's like kind of like you look at the big picture. How long are you going to drive this car for? Well, if you're making $170,000 a year, actually you're not really doing it to be an environmentalist. Let's be honest here. You just do it because it's something cool. It's something that's classy, that's fancy, that's a little bit show-offy. I would buy a $150,000 electric car because it was worth it. It is enjoyable, and I would probably never buy another car again because if it lasts that long, I don't have a need to. The extra, $60,000 is for comfort, not for an improved technology. So those are little things you think about, because in the price range of a $25,000 electric vehicle, why do you buy that? Because you're saving money in the long run, less expenses overall. You don't have to fill up at the gas station. You don't have to pay more for gas than you do electricity. You can charge at home, which is charging infrastructure. They say, hey, we need all these fast chargers. No, you don't, because people haven't placed into consideration that we have charging infrastructure at home. Even a 120 volt charger will charge a battery for you at a fairly inexpensive cost. You go to the gas station, well, you don't need to go to the gas station every single day. You can just charge it at home and get your range back, or whatever it is you do. So there's not a need for a significant amount of fast charging networks. And Tesla, they look at, I'm pretty sure they look at it this way, is like, well, why did they need so many gas stations? You have 100,000 gas stations. It's because you can't fill up at home. Now, technology shift, science has shifted. You could fill up your battery pack at home. You can recharge it at home. You don't need a fast charger everywhere for everything. That's just stupid. With cars that get more than 250, 300 miles, 90%, 98% of the time, you won't need more than that. There's always that 10% that you will need a charging network for that. Okay, fine, that's what it's there for. You're not going to go over to your friend's house and charge and say, hey, I just came over here, I'm going to charge at your place. No, that's a bunch of BS. Just go home and charge. It's not going to be that bad, and people think you need all this extra charging. Well, that's, once again, fear of stupidity. Their own stupidity, that they cannot look and say, hey, I have a 50% charge. I don't know what I should do. I should fill up because I'm afraid. Well, when your gas tank is half empty, are you scared of not having enough gas in your car? No. And there's no reason why, if your electric tank, in a sense, is half empty, you should be concerned how much range you have in your car. It's the same thing. There's no difference. The only difference now is when you go home, you can just plug it up, instead of going home and thinking, you know what, in a couple of days I got to go to the gas station. No, at 50%, you can go home, fill it up, or recharge it, and probably in the morning it'll be at 70%. Are you going to be concerned at 70%? The same as you would be at 50%. But this time, once again, you do not have to worry about those things that gas cars require anymore. That's as simple as it gets. People don't look at those big picture things. You don't need extra charging networks. Just charge your car at home. It's easy. I think the plug comes with the car. Thank you.